Now, we're going to switch gears and go to the Shayna Huber's trial. Right now on the stand, we have Holly Nivens. This is a defendant's former cellmate. Remember, she has been sitting in prison or in jail. She hasn't gone to prison yet. She has been sitting in jail waiting for her retrial, and she's already been there for over 5 years. Let's take a look.
We were, there was 2 rooms off the common area, and we were housed in one of them together.
Were you bunkmates in that room?
Yes.
And you said you all talked a lot. Did Ms. Hubers talk to you a lot?
Yes.
Did she talk about her case?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury specifically, in the beginning of your time with Ms. Hubers, your view of her, or what kind of things she told you about her case?
She said a lot of things about her case. She was pretty manic about it. At first she said, she switched her story up quite a bit. She said that, you know, she was abused. She said that, you know, her and Ryan would fight a lot. She said that, there's just a lot of things that she said about the case.
When she told you about that she was abused, did she specify what type of abuse in the beginning?
Yes.
What was that?
Sexual.
And please elaborate for the jury. What did she tell you?
She said that Ryan had raped her.
All right. Did she tell you about other, specifically the night in question, October 12, 2012, did you all talk about that night?
Yes.
And during the beginning of your time together, did she tell you a version of what had occurred on October 12, 2012?
Yes.
Did she tell you, in her words, what had precipitated her shooting Ryan Poston on that night? What led up to her shooting Ryan Poston that night?
Yes.
What was it?
That he was going to leave her. That he did not want to be with her anymore.
Now, I want to clarify something, Ms. Nivens. You testified that you were with Ms. Hubers for about 2 months.
Yes.
Was there a turning point for you regarding your time with Ms. Hubers? A time when your feelings may have changed?
Yes.
Ma'am, could you speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Could you get into that mic for everybody's benefit? Thank you.
I want to talk about prior to that time when the feeling changed. You testified to the jury that she told you Ryan Poston raped her. Did she tell you in the beginning anything else that Ryan Poston had done to her?
That he was abusive, mentally, to her.
Did she tell you if he was physically abusive on the night of the shooting?
She at first did, and
Okay.
then...
Now, we've kind of talked about, and after your cellmate had told you that she had been raped by the man she killed and abused by the man she killed, at that point, how did you feel towards her?
Synthetic.
Can you say that louder, please?
Synthetic.
Okay. I want to talk more about, did Ms. Hubers talk to you about time prior to October 12, 2012?
Yes.
According to Ms. Hubers and her statements to you, was she only present at the condo with Ryan Poston, or was there a time she was there without him?
Yes. She was there without him.
Did she discuss the type of things she would do when she was there without him?
Yes.
And what's an example? Please tell the jury what she told you she would do.
There's times that she would throw things around the apartment to make it seem like there was a fight going on between her and Ryan.
And was Mr. Poston even home when she was doing that?
No.
What was, according to Ms. Hubers, her purpose in doing that?
To make the neighbors think that there was something going on between her and Ryan.
You just mentioned the neighbors at the Highland Meadows condo complex. Did Ms. Hubers talk to you about anything else, any other interactions with the neighbors?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She said that she would go and she would meet up with this little girl and one of the parents to the little girl.
Were they residents of the complex?
Yes.
Okay.
And she would purposely, you know, roll her sleeves up to show bruises that were on her arms.
How did those bruises get there?
She said that she self-inflicted them.
And why was she self-inflicting bruises and rolling her sleeves up when she went to see the neighbors and play with the kid?
Because she wanted them to believe that Ryan was abusing her.
So you've testified here today that on October 12, 2012, Mr. Poston wanted to end the relationship. What did he want of Ms. Hubers?
For her to get her things and leave.
And
To get her possessions, her things, and leave the condo.
And I want to clarify, Ms. Nivens, everything you're testifying to here today was told to you directly by the defendant.
Yes.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and that was Holly Nivens. She is a witness for the prosecution in the Shayna Hubers trial, and she is testifying, showing how Shayna Hubers has changed her story many times from jail behind bars. And this is additional information than the first trial. This is a retrial. This is now another prosecution witness, which is going to help bolster the prosecution's case for another guilty conviction. With me is KrisAnne Hall. She's a former prosecutor. KrisAnne, I want to give you the opportunity to give us some feedback here on this witness testimony before we go back to more clips in court.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. I'm happy to be here. You know, it's always potluck for the retrial, and oftentimes it's something that is to the disadvantage of the prosecution, because now the defense has seen the whole prosecution's case and they can better prepare for it. But in this case, it's actually going to be working against Shayna, because she was a defense attorney's nightmare. She couldn't keep her mouth shut. And
yeah, but in this case, we're looking at a witness who has now been in jail with her, a cellmate with her. So this is additional information, and it's not like this witness is gleaning any sympathetic testimony towards Shayna. It's more as if she's saying how Shayna was trying to lie and make everyone think that the bruises were from the boyfriend, but they were actually self-inflicted. And she's saying how Shayna even told her story and inconsistently changed her facts around, consistently changed her facts around. She wasn't her story was constantly changing. So while this witness is in jail herself, which is not great for her credibility, we'll see how the jury wants to take that, she's still a witness for the prosecution and is giving a case for the prosecution, even though she was a cellmate and could have been a friend of Shayna. Do you think that the jury is taking this witness's testimony as credible, or do you think they're disregarding it because she's in jail herself, and I'm sure that the crime that she's in jail for will probably come out in cross-examination if it's a felony?
I think that this witness is very credible in her testimony. I mean, she admits at the very beginning that she was sympathetic. And then the testimony that comes forward later is that Shayna is now changing her story. Like I said, this is a nightmare for her defense attorney. And unlike usual retrials, where it makes retrials are more difficult for the prosecution, the benefit of this testimony post-trial is going to be very, very beneficial for the prosecution and their case. And, like I said, I think the fact that she said, I was sympathetic to her, and the testimony that she's giving seems to be very credible. It's going to be hard for the defense to prove that she has some kind of motive against Shayna to make all this up, because that's really what they're going to have to say, is that she's just fabricating all of this.
Motive, or an unstable person, who knows? We don't know why she's in jail. We really don't have that information yet, but it might come out. We're going to go back into the courtroom with more testimony from Holly Nivens. This is a cellmate of Shayna Hubers, and for those just joining us, Shayna Hubers is the trial. It's a retrial where she is being charged with killing her boyfriend, shooting him 6 times. She's often been coined as the nose job killer. She shot him in the face and gave him the, quote, nose job that he always wanted, as she said in the interrogation room. Pretty crazy facts. We're going to go back to the courtroom testimony of Holly Nivens, who is a cellmate, or was a cellmate, of Shayna Hubers. She's still in jail. This is a retrial. She was already convicted to 40 years, and because a juror was found to be a convicted felon and that was never disclosed, she got a new trial. Let's take a look.
On the night of October 12, 2012, when did Ms. Hubers tell you she learned that Ryan Poston was leaving her or wanted her out?
It was early. It was before she had got back to the condo.
Before she arrived at the condo, she was aware of that?
Yeah.
And how had she become aware of it?
Because she was talking to Ryan on a cell phone.
On the phone. And when did Ms. Hubers tell you, when she arrived back at Highland Meadows, where Mr. Poston was or what he was doing?
He was on the back porch or patio or deck,
And what was he doing out there?
smoking a cigarette.
All right. And with Mr. Post, have you ever been to the Highland Meadows condominiums?
Never.
Do you have any way of knowing if they even have porches or decks outside from what Ms. Hubers told you?
No.
Is everything you know about the Highland Meadows condominium, specifically Mr. Poston's, from the defendant?
Correct.
Okay. And what did she tell you that while Mr. Poston was out, she arrived and he's outside smoking on the deck, what did she tell you she did?
She went to the back porch
For what purpose?
to talk to him to try to. She said that she was trying to push his buttons to try to get a reaction from him to get loud by talking about a case that he had had.
And what was the purpose for her to try to get loud, or try to make him get loud?
So somebody would hear that he was yelling at her.
And with her there trying to provoke him, did she tell you what Mr. Poston did?
I can't remember.
Okay. Did he remain there on the porch with her?
No, he went inside.
And where did he go?
I believe he went to his bedroom and locked himself in his room
And did she tell you why he went to his bedroom and locked the door?
because he did not want to fight with her.
And why wouldn't Mr. Poston just leave his condo?
If that's not building a case for premeditation, I don't know what is. KrisAnne Hall, former prosecutor, let's talk about that for a quick second. What do you make of that? Is that premeditation? She's going there and she's trying to orchestrate a situation where neighbors could hear that he's yelling at her in order for her to be justified in a self-defense argument. That's what I just got from that testimony. What about you?
Yeah, and I believe that testimony also is corroborated by other testimony that's come forward in this trial, or will be coming forward based on the fact that we've seen this before. She has a history, according to this witness, of establishing an abusive relationship, or at least proof of abusive relationship that may or may not actually exist. And this testimony, particularly describing the details of where they are and the outlay of the condo, is going to be very compelling to the jury, because that can only have come from Shayna herself.
Okay, right. So I think we're going to have to go to a quick break. We're going to continue to watch this trial, watch this testimony, as well as when we come back, have an update on the Molly Tibbetts case, America's sweetheart who went missing, but we found a body. Stick with us. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and here on Law&Crime, we always have a full schedule and lots going on with which we want to report to you. We are covering the Roy Oliver trial out of Texas, the former police officer who shot and killed a 15-year-old boy. It is now standing trial for murder, but that courtroom is now on a quick break. So another case we're following here is the Shayna Hubers trial, and we have new information on that to share with you. For those of you that need a reminder or who are just joining us, this is a case where it is a retrial. Shayna Hubers is accused of murder of her boyfriend. She shot him 6 times, one of them in the face at his nose. She's often coined to be the nose job killer because in the interrogation room, she said she gave him the nose job he always wanted. She was already convicted and found guilty and was supposed to be serving 40 years in prison, but because a juror in the original trial was a convicted felon and that was not initially disclosed, she is now on trial again. It is mostly the same facts. This has gotten a lot of media attention, both in the first trial and again now. And while it's mostly the same trial, there are some new twists and turns. Earlier today, we heard on the stand from a cellmate. So now there's new testimony, new admissions, new statements, whether consistent or inconsistent, that Shayna herself said while in jail to others, which the prosecution gets to use against her and which the jurors get to consider in deliberations. We have new testimony in that trial, so let's go to that trial, and we will continue to watch the courtroom in the Oliver case at the same time.
Where did Ms. Hubers tell you that the gun was located in the apartment during this?
On the table.
And was it in Mr. Poston's hands?
No.
Had he picked it up?
No.
Had he reached for it?
No.
Who did pick up the gun?
Shayna.
And once Miss Hubers, in her own words, picked up the gun, what did she do with it?
She asked Ryan, she said, "What would you do if I," and pointed the gun at him.
I want to talk about, and what did she tell you after she picked up the gun and pointed it at Mr. Poston and said, "What would you do if I?" What did she say Mr. Poston did?
Smirked at her.
And what did she do at that point?
Walked around the table and shot him.
I want to ask you about that statement, "What would you do if I?" Have you heard that statement out of Ms. Hubers on other times?
Yes.
Can you please tell the jury where else you've heard that?
She had said that same thing at a shooting range when she had went with Ryan.
Did she tell you anything else about that trip to the shooting range with Ryan, that particular one?
Yes.
What was that? Please be loud.
Sorry. She had said that she was afraid that one of the employees there had heard her say that same thing to Ryan.
And when Ms. Hubers was walking you through this with the picture, did she tell you how many times she shot Mr. Poston?
Yes.
How many?
6.
And did she tell you why 6 times?
She said that she thought that he would be alive to say what had really happened that night.
Where did she tell you he was when she first shot him?
At the kitchen table.
According to Ms. Hubers, did he remain at the kitchen table for all the shots?
Yes.
At any point, did he fall?
He fell to the ground.
And what did she do at that point?
Went around to the opposite side and shot him.
While he was on the ground?
Yeah.
Ms. Hubers told you that Ryan Poston was ending the relationship on October 12, 2012. Did she make any comments to you about her view towards that or her actions towards that?
Yes.
What was that?
She had said that Ryan's family had a bunch of money and that they could buy a new child.
I'm sorry, can you please say into the mic so they get it?
That Ryan's family had a bunch of money and that they could buy a new child.
After the shooting, did Ms. Hubers tell you what she did after shooting Ryan Poston?
Yes.
Can you please tell the jury?
She had called her mom.
And what, is that the first thing she did, or had she taken other actions prior to that?
She said that she had was trying to clean up the apartment.
Okay. I want to ask you specifically, you say she was trying to clean up. Were there specific items that Ms. Hubers was dealing with when trying to clean up?
Yes.
Please, go to this
Yes.
mic. And what were those?
The gun.
What did she tell you that she had done with the gun after the shooting?
That she had wiped the prints off and put it in her purse.
And why was she putting the gun in her purse?
Because she had a conversation with her mom, and her mom said that she wanted to meet her, potentially.
And do what with it?
I'm sorry. Again, ma'am, you're going to have to speak
I'm
up.
sorry.
I apologize for keep asking you to speak up, but you're going to have to for the record. And if you need to get closer to that mic,
Okay.
you can get.
I
please do.
apologize.
And you had said that they were potentially going to meet and do what with? What was the purpose of them meeting, she and her mother?
Well, they had phone conversation. On the phone conversation, she had said that they were going to try to make it seem like it was a suicide, or that they were going to, take the gun and come back either that following Sunday or Monday and make it seem like they had just found Ryan's body there.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and that is a witness. Her name is Holly Nivens. She was a cellmate with the defendant, Shayna Hubers, who's standing her retrial for the murder of her boyfriend. And right there, you basically had a defendant's admission through a cellmate of exactly what happened, which completely bolsters the prosecution's case. Not good for the defense. Before we have a discussion, I just want to bring to your attention another thing that just happened in the courtroom. There was a defense motion for a mistrial due to the fact that the previous trial was brought up in front of the jurors, and there was an agreement to not do that in the second trial. However, the judge denied the motion, so this trial is going to continue. All right, with me, KrisAnne. I know you need to go for the day, and it's time to sign you off. Before you do, I want to give you the opportunity to give us some final thoughts with your expert legal analysis on this case.
You know, I think the fact that this person is an inmate at the time is going to be negative to her character, but the candor in which and the emotion in which that she brings this testimony, not only that, she's bringing testimony that she can't know unless Shayna has actually delivered this to her.
Right, and it's so consistent with the narrative of the prosecution, and I agree with you. Her emotion, her tears, it's compelling. Why do you think she's crying? Is it because she doesn't want to rat out and get beat up in jail, or is it because she is so horrified by the facts of this case? I wonder what the jury thinks.
Yeah, I think that the point that she got emotional was when she was talking about the fact that Shayna was obviously in her mind being cold and callous and saying, well, you know, Ryan's family's rich. They can buy a child. They don't need mine. And so the coldness in which she's talking about the life of the child is what really sort of brings her to tears, which gives her an even more credibility, I think, before the jury, because she's obviously an emotionally touched woman who is offended by what she's hearing. Because remember, in the beginning of her testimony, she said in the beginning, I was sympathetic to her. And there was a point where that changed. And I think we're beginning to see the real depth of how that change took place in this witness's life.
A real lens into the state of mind of Shayna Hubers and her instability. But another thing I want to point out and give you the opportunity to just talk to is the fact that she just implicated her mother. She just said that her mom was on the phone and they were scheming together on whether or not to make it self-defense or a suicide. What about that?
You know, that could bring about some kind of charge against her mother in the future. You know, I don't think that that's likely going to take place, given the fact that they have such a solid case against Shayna, and to relive this trial again would be somewhat superfluous.
It would be reliving it a third time.
A third time, right.
All right, KrisAnne, thank you for joining us. I know you need to go. We appreciate having you here. So thank you very much, and we're going to continue our coverage here on Law & Crime, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Right now on the stand, we have Cecilia Miller. She's also a cellmate, or was a former cellmate of the defendant, Shayna Hubers. Let's see what she has to say, and if this is consistent or inconsistent testimony with the prosecution's narrative. It is a prosecution witness, so it's likely consistent, but it is new evidence for us to consider as viewers and for the jurors to consider as well. Let's take a look.
Come back to, you had said that Ryan Poston was at the table.
Yes, sir.
And was that where he was located when Ms. Hubers told you she shot him first?
Yes, he was sitting down at the table and she shot him. And what I recall, what I remember is when she shot him, it was like bang, 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 sprayed. And then she sat there and she said, I just gave him nose job. He always wanted, cackled, laughed. And she shot him, he fell. And then when she shot him, she stood up, shot him more, the spray, I reckon. And that's when he was twitching.
And I want to clarify something you just said. You said that he fell.
Out of the chair.
Out of the chair. Where was Mr. Post? You said he was seated for the first shot. Where was he for some of the final shots?
I guess he was at the table.
Okay. Did Ms. Hubers tell you whether she continued shooting after he had fallen to the ground?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk to you, Ms. Miller. Did Ms. Hubers talk to you about her planned defense?
Yes.
And what did she tell you regarding her defense?
First, she was going to play insanity, but I guess she went and her lawyer told her that wasn't going to work because of her.
Let's move on with that. That's your lawyer.
Here, can we approach, please?
Back. I'm Carissa Kranz. That is Cicely Miller. She is a former cellmate of the defendant, and her testimony is consistent with the prosecution's case. We will continue to monitor this trial, but first we must take a quick break. Stick with us. We'll be right back.